Welcome back to Traveler's Proc. We're joined with Hurry today. Thank you for coming on. It's been a long awaited episode, I feel like.
Yeah, I was waiting. That's for sure.
You were waiting.
Yeah, I didn't want to insert myself, but like I felt like my time was coming.
Oh, you were. It would always have been fine for us for you to insert yourself. That's no big deal, really, dude. Really.
I got some interesting questions to ask you today, but the first thing I want to get into is talking about what everybody's probably thinking about is the teammate tier list. I can't believe you and Mike made those. That was insane, in my opinion, to do.
Yeah.
I don't think I could do it personally, but I think the way you guys went about it was like the best way possible for sure.
Yeah, well, I was just, common streamer problem. I was thinking of like a reward for like a sub reward or whatever, and I was like, what can you do now that you couldn't do before? And so I was like, well, I mean, like it could matter, right? Depending on like Smite 2 and who's still playing and stuff. So it could matter, but I just thought if you did it the right way, like a teammate tier list could be like interesting and like as long as you put stuff in perspective, usually no one's like a bad guy. Like we don't have a lot of people I feel like who play Smite that are around anymore at least that were like just
Yeah.
bad people. So like most people I felt like even if I disliked them, I knew if I had a chance to like talk about it on my platform, it shouldn't be like no one's gonna sound like a villain or like a complete piece of garbage or whatever if you talk about it like and explain at least like try to give their side from my perspective. So I didn't think it would be that bad, and I haven't had any like huge problems. I've got a feeling some people might be like a little annoyed and just like they don't think it's worth it to say anything, but for the most part it's caused not a lot of problems, so I'm pretty content with how it turned out. Although, like, it's still in the back of my mind, there's some people who I'm not sure if they've seen it, and I'm like, they might see it and get mad at me. And on a YouTube video, I omitted some stuff because I just thought it was a little extreme. Like, it's not extreme, and it's definitely still what I thought, but I didn't want to. I don't want to bring some stuff up any more than I have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like something that see, I would have been with Aurora and I would have never done it if it wasn't for something you did while you were doing it. And I asked her if I could rip him off because it just sounded fun while he was doing it. Was the biggest part about it to me was the storytelling that I found entertaining. Like, it was a lot less, like,
Yeah.
who was good or bad, and it was more just telling random stories. Like, some people like Scream, for example. I knew going into it, I didn't even have to ask his permission. Like, he'd be cool with me telling whatever, like, dumb story I had of him when he was, like, 15 years old on a United, you know? Like, he's pretty, like, public with that stuff. Like, he really doesn't mind, and I feel like I know him well enough to be comfortable with that. I also think this is a very, like, privileged statement to have for sure, but I was talking to our, like, Dragons team in Discord before I did it because Coast was talking about doing it as well,
Hmm.
and I've actually been very fortunate ever since, like, E United, really, the first year. I've kind of been in spots where every player that I've played with since then, I've, like, wanted to play with, you know what I mean? Like, I haven't felt like I've been forced to play with somebody who I'm like, "Oh, man, this guy's such a bad teammate." So, I feel very lucky. I'd say, like, 90% of my teammates I would consider good teammates. Like, for example, I put, like, Pagon in, like, bad teammate, mostly just for, like, the fun of it, you know? But I had fun playing with Daniel. I wouldn't consider there's very few people I would consider, like, people I just would not wanna talk to again. Like, it's very few and far between.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think that like the way you guys did it was so good. I think if anything, it was just fun to listen to all the stories. My favorite part, I wish I got to watch your stream a little bit more, Hurry, because Mike told me after the fact. He's like, "Did you watch Hurry's stream at all? We should talk about this if we get him on the podcast." I'm like, "Yeah, this sounds sick," but I didn't get to watch it. I watched some of yours, Mike, and I just remember in chat, Fine OK and Bass were like, "How do you remember all this stuff?" And that
Yeah.
was like cracking me up the entire time. Every time they said something like that.
Yeah, dude, I don't know what it is. I remember everything, and even if I don't remember it in the moment, I feel like it just takes, like, one thing to trigger it, you know? And then it's just right there
Yeah.
all again.
I'm kind of the same way. Like, I remember not almost everything, but I definitely remember a lot of stuff for sure. Just
Yeah.
over the course of all the years, which is crazy. It's like you were saying. I think you said in your stream, like you have a problem. You just there's some things in your brain that you should just know, but you just have season two scrims there. I forget the exact
Uh-huh.
quote, but it was so
Yeah.
funny. I was
Yeah.
dying laughing at that.
Some people remember like how to pay their bills. I remember my season 2 scrim versus Cyclone Spin with Anatoly going Transcendence Wukong. That's what I remember.
Oh man.
A curse more than a blessing, perhaps.
Yeah, really.
But yeah, I think like for me, I would I like telling stories about the teammates that I played with. That'd be fun, but I don't know. Like for me, it's hard to rank them for sure because
Yeah.
I don't know how you guys did it. I wanted to ask you actually, like, but from what I'm gathering, it's more of like just like them. Is it like more? Actually, I don't even know to be honest how you guys are. How you
Well, I
guys
think we
rank it.
both did it a little bit differently from each other as well, right?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
just have to like preface it with like what you kind of have to explain like when I'm saying someone's a good teammate, that could like mean a lot of things, right? Like I think Mike probably valued like things that helped him like win like a little more than me. So like for some people it might just be like how much did you think they were like supportive, but other people might be like how much did they do their job in game as well. So I think it just depends, and as long as you just like preface it with like this is like when I'm describing like what makes a good teammate here, these are the qualities I'm looking for, so people like know what you're really saying when they look at the rankings.
Yeah.
I'm. Oh, go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. You can rip it.
No, you go first.
Okay. I was gonna say, yeah, I think like for me, and maybe you would relate to this to some extent, Aurora, is I feel like I have a pretty high tolerance for like I don't want to call it toxicity because I think that paints people in a bad light. But I actually like I just love arguing. Like it's just kind of how I am. Like I'd way
No,
rather
don't
you
think
said
so.
no, you don't think so? Dang. like
You wanted to argue with me right there over that right
I
now.
did, I really did.
I like to argue too. It's fun, dude.
Like I would prefer to have somebody get really mad and argue even if like Scream is such a good example of this for me. Like especially when he was younger, he would know something's wrong, like the way his game feels, and he would know like this shouldn't be happening, but he wouldn't know how to articulate it, and he would just get mad at people. And obviously there's like a better way to handle it. And when he got older, like I could tell a big difference from him the first time we played together compared to later on for sure. But I would way rather someone do that than not talk at all. Like I really hate it if people one of my least favorite things is when people have issues and you can tell like they maybe don't like how things are going, whether it's in scrims or like the way your team is playing in general, but they just don't really talk. Like I don't really like that. So someone could be a nicer guy to me, but be a worse teammate because at the end of the day, like I just want people to feel like I want people to feel like their opinion is respected and they can like talk and like I want to like get to the bottom of things.
Yeah. No, it's funny because I like how me and Herwin both smiled like when you started talking about Scream because we both know him so well too. Well, I guess I don't know him well, but I know I've played with him, so I know how it goes. So it's just
Yeah,
Scream is such a funny guy.
he
I
is.
love playing with that guy. He was awesome.
Yeah, it was funny because Scream specifically was someone for me. I think Hurry was actually telling me about it while I was doing my tier list. I tried not to look at chat much because I didn't want them to like influence what I was saying. But I was telling like my thing going into it was I tried to tell one good story and one bad story about everybody. And like good or bad doesn't even necessarily mean like they're being toxic or something, just like a dumb moment that happened.
Mhm.
And for Scream, I had like 10 bad stories. I had stories about like him BMing Ven. I had so many. And then I still put him in like one of the highest tiers, and people were like, How can that be true? Like after everything you just said, how can he still be up there? But it's because I liked playing with him. I felt like he like the biggest thing for me as well is I wanna feel like I know that people, like, gave it their all, you know? Like, there was never a time where I played with Scream and I didn't think he was trying his hardest to win. Like, whether you agreed with what he was saying or not, he was trying to win.
Yeah, I think we come from a really unique perspective on this stuff too, like in general. And like obviously not every player is going to be the same, but Like we're a very like niche like type of people, I feel, and so it's like not coincidence if like most pro players or at least like semi-successful pro players have like um a willingness to like deal with like those kinds of personalities. But I also think those kind of personalities just show up more when you find people who are like the best at something, especially like when it's like this kind of weird thing that we do, which is like we do it from home. And so like you got a lot of people who like were professional video game players since they're like 15, and so I think that comes with its own like consequences. But I think we all like understand that too, like Scream is like won a world championship before he was like an adult, and he got like a bunch of money and like a lot of attention, and that may like adversely affect you in some ways. I'm not saying it's like made him a bad person or anything like that, but it definitely makes you a little bit different, like with how like unique that experience is to your life. It's like the same thing. I mean, obviously we're not anything near this level, but like you've got like child celebrities, and I think to a lesser extent like we have that effect when you're in positions like Scream. So like Scream definitely got some like lessons from like that team, for example, where he just thought like, yeah, you should be like crappy to each other because that's just like, then you're being honest and people play better that way. But like he just thinks that because that was his first experience, and like maybe that works for him, but you know, doesn't always work for everybody. And I think for like a normal working human, you're like, if I had worked with someone like that, I would just leave. But like
Yeah.
we're also trying to win. Like we have to win. It's not like you accomplish like a basic set of goals or like you accomplish your job for the day and that's it. You have to do the job to the best of your ability every day. And if you don't, you can be kicked. So it's just a very volatile thing that we do. So sometimes you just put up with stuff like that.
I think
Yeah,
kind of. Oh, sorry, Roy. I think kind of like piggybacking on that too was that like when you have Scream, for example, and like not only do you have to like you're being taught like, oh, like talking to people really bluntly is good because that worked, but it's also like you have to consider who you're around. And I think something big that I learned from Smite that I'll carry over into like probably all the relationships the rest of my life is that knowing how to talk to different people is really important. Like for Scream, he could be really blunt on that team because like me and Panda and Benji, we preferred it. Like so like we would know something he was saying. We'd be like, dude, you are an idiot for saying this like that. But like we could get past it. Like we cared more about what he was trying to say than how he was saying it. But that's not the case for everybody. Like I spoke about Laspera, for example, who I would consider Lass an objectively like great teammate, which is why I put him like pretty high on my list. But I actually don't prefer the way Lass is for me personally compared to other people. Like if I know that if I'm slacking or if I'm doing something that's dumb, like Lass is a very gentle person with that, and he tries to be like very encouraging. I kind of just need someone to get on my ass. Like I need someone to tell me to like snap out of it or like kind of flame me a little bit, honestly, which like it's just what you respond to. Like that's something in, coaching or whatever else as well. So that's something I've learned for sure.
I was gonna. I just when you said child celebrities, it made me think of Justin Screamber.
Preferred it.
And now he's grown up and everybody loves him now.
Yeah. It is weird though because everyone when they talk about Scream and like I mean he's the most obvious example, but everyone's
Yeah.
like Scream is not like this is what I said on my tier list too, so I'm kind of rehashing this a bit here for those who watch it, but like he's not like a you suck. That's why like I personally don't have a problem with him. He's not like you suck. He's like you are playing bad. Like what are you doing? But he's never like saying it in a way like he actually thinks you're bad. But he's like, what are you doing, dude? You're being so dumb. Like, but not you are dumb or you are bad, but like you are just playing bad this game, or like you showed up just on time and you're playing like you just woke up. Like what's going on? So that's why like for Scream, like I don't think he's like he doesn't have bad intentions. Like Mike said, like sometimes he most of the time he's making a good point. He's just not always saying it in a way that's like makes you want to listen, or like understand where he's coming from. So yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
a big difference with Scream.
the thing when I played with him, I feel like he was at the stage of his career, I guess, where he was a lot better. I don't think he really had like that many crazy. There's some crazy stories I have for sure, but like he just, the thing that I loved about him is that he was just so into the game. Like that's why he said the type of things that he would say. I feel like I
Yeah.
remember he's he was just there to just have some fun, and he just wanted to win, and he was just into it. Like when I hit a herc pluck and I got like a 2-man herc, he was like, "Whoa!" in the game and stuff like that would always make me laugh so hard. I wouldn't like not like I'm like trying to play, and he's like, "Whoa, my god!" or like, "Whoa!" And he's just like into it. He's like, "Dude, look at my damage here." Like he just
Yeah.
loves it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't
He's
know how to like.
invested.
I'm like so bad at like doing a Scream impression, but like it's so funny. I love people that are just so into it because
Yeah.
that's how I am too. I feel like a lot of the time. So it's just fun playing with him, and like he's just like a vibe. Like the one funny story I guess I have about Scream, I think I've told it before. Oh my god, excuse me. I've told before. Um, was we were scrimming, we would double block like every day, and I think it was season 6 splice. We double blocked like every day that season. I think almost every team did because that we were like new to scrimming there. We had a lot more time. I actually loved the double blocking, but I think Scream was like getting a little bit like tired at the end of the second block. And my favorite thing was he's like he just hasn't said anything for like the entire pick and ban phase. He's last pick. We're like, oh yeah, he's probably gonna last pick. He's like, all right, guys, like in his Scream voice, it's time to have some fun. He's like, lock me in Kuzenbo. He locks in Kuzenbo and he runs it down in the best way possible. We win the game as Kuzenbo jungle, and things like that were just so funny. He was just there to have a good time, and it was great.
Yeah, he could always find a reason to do something where like he deserves to do it, or like you shouldn't be like telling him otherwise. Be like, oh, I carried this whole scrim. If you're getting on him, you'd be like, yeah, well, I carried this whole scrim block, so like, don't be typing to me, you know. So it's like, okay, go, just do your thing, man.
Oh man. Wait, Mike, we can't hear you.
How about now?
We're good.
Yeah.
Okay, my bad. I bumped my microphone. When I played with him in season 9, something that was funny that he would do that you remind me of, Aurora, is he would just like there'd be some games he would play like Cleo or Suki, those characters he really liked, and he would just like farm forever. And the way he would talk about him was so funny because I'd be like, "Oh, can we take this fight?" And it's like early to mid game. He's like, "Nope, I'm absolutely fucking useless." And he was just like, "Dude," and then he would like he'd farm to level 20. He'd get his like starter item. He'd be like, "All right, guys, it's time to go." And he would he would
That is
just
a
go
Scream classic.
he would just go he would just go into a wall as Cleo, or he would just alt as Suki, or like 3 as Suki, and you don't even hear comms. This would happen in SPL games too. You don't even hear comms about what he's doing. He just goes, right, what is this damage, right? Like that's all he's saying. He's like, right, this is balanced, okay.
Yeah.
And then he'd be nice, guys, I bought my item. You just say some dumb stuff like that. You know who else was someone else who I think was really polarizing on those teammate things, like, or I guess not like necessarily on our list, but people that all 3 of us played with, is Wooney was actually really hard for me as well, because I only played with Baskin for 1 split, and we lost in quarters at Worlds, but we still had like a good split, you know, like we just lost a best of 3 or whatever, which obviously sucks, but Baskin was such a unique experience to me because when he was younger, I feel like he was somebody where people kind of like question, like he would troll his teammates a lot. I know Hurry like got that end of him a lot. Like he trolled Scream so much. Like he would literally just pick on Scream. But it's weird because Baskin was such a good teammate in terms of like most of the stuff I would care about. Like he was fun to play with. Like still, I think one of the funniest teammates I've ever had for sure. He would also try, like he was very intelligent at giving you his thought process behind like why things were good or bad, or why he wanted to play a certain way. Like all of those things he was so good at. But the one thing about Wooney, and I don't know what it is, maybe it's just that he's funny and everybody like knows he's being funny, is anytime Scream did something stupid on that team, he would instantly make fun of Scream. Like he had a soundboard, he would just play like a clip to make fun of him. and instantly, like, Benji and Pandacat could not help themselves. Like, they had to jump in and gang up on Scream, and it wasn't Baskin's, like, fault necessarily, but it, like, created a troll environment. It's like, is that Baskin's fault? Is that the other two people's fault? Like, I feel like he was one of the harder people for me to rate on that.
Yeah. Season 6, phase 1 is the first time I got to play with Baskin. He came in like after um we got Ven and Scream, and then Divios. We replaced Divios too. And that split was one of the craziest splits I've ever been a part of. I don't know what it was. I think like moving down to Georgia and everything. It was still fun. Like it was all this crazy stuff happened. Like Sino Moswell left, and then we replaced Divios. And honestly, like after we replaced Divios and after Sino Moswell left, I was feeling like really down that split. And then Baskin came in and then like kind of brought my like mood back up. Like he kind of like re-energized me to play again. And without playing with him like that split, who knows if I would have played like the next 4 years of Smite, honestly, because I had so much fun at the end of that split playing with him. And the first SPL game we ever played, speaking of Scream, making fun of Scream, Scream's playing Hunbots, and he completely whiffs Hunbots all. Who was? It was Aquarius. We're playing SSG. It was game 1, I think, or game 2. I can't remember. And I think Aquarius was our solo laner season 6, and he completely whiffed his ult in solo lane. Like he was trying to gank for Bastion and swing Hunbots, and Bastion's like, "Bro, you just missed Humbot's ult or something." He said, "How do you miss that ability?" And he starts laughing, and he like laughed for like 2 minutes. He's like, "Oh, don't come back to my lane. You're gonna miss your ult again. Don't come over here and do that again or something." He was like laughing at him. We ended up losing that game, I think, and we ended up coming back and winning that set. But after that game, Scream did not play on bots the rest of the phase. And so every time I saw Scream play Humbots, I think he played a little bit like last year.
Little, yeah.
Um, and I was like, "Oh God, Scream on Humbots." Good thing Baskin's not on his team. That's what I thought. I was like, but oh, that phase was awesome. I had so much fun. But yeah, I had like it's weird because I feel like you guys had different experiences. Like I got all the players you guys played with like later on in their playing careers. So I feel like my experience with them was a lot different than what you guys had for sure. Because like Baskin was awesome season 6, and then this last season Baskin was also really fun to play with and really good person to have. Just as a teammate and roommate as well. It was great. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think Winnie for me was like it's odd to take it out of that perspective, but Winnie was somebody I really liked playing with. But I feel like on that team, if we had if we had stayed together for another year, it probably would have been good because we would have like learned how to like lock down and be serious in scrims. But I've told this story before too. Like I remember at the start of that split, we're literally like I talked about this on stream, so I'll make it brief. Like I just said, like, yeah, I like scrimming Splice. And at the time, like before everybody thought you were good, he literally would just like solo somebody out of base. He'd be like, "Yeah, one of my favorite things about Splice is they don't F6." And he's just like farming somebody at Phoenix. I'm like, okay, dude, like
he did.
he's just trolling me just to
He,
troll me, you know?
he did a little bit of that this year too, but it was always funny.
Yeah,
Oh
he
my
is hilarious. He is for sure one of the funniest Smite players, hands down for me.
god. I feel like he does it without even trying too. I
Oh,
don't know how he does
100%.
it.
Dude, okay, Roy, I know you wouldn't like list it in this way. Like you don't have to like do it, but I'm kind of curious because since her and I both did it, like I'm curious, is there someone who really like I assume like a teammate that you would like is like Cyclone, for example, like you played together so long or something like that. Is there a teammate that like maybe how you described Baskin, like that one split on Splice? There's someone who you didn't play with that long that you felt like was like a really good teammate. Like, are there any like surprising ones that like that where you'd put them a little bit higher or something?
Mm, not any that I can think of off the top of my head. I have to think about it a little bit. I didn't. I played with a lot of really good players. I was super lucky, and um I played with most of them for like the entire like phase. I feel like or split or so.
Yeah.
Like Baskin's like one of the only ones that I played with like a very brief stint of time, like it was half of a split. That split was weird too. Like we didn't. That was the one split that we didn't practice. Like going into a LAN. Like I've never done that before. I never want to do that again. But we did not practice going into the one LAN. We like took like 12 days off, and then we just played E United, beat them, and we were like, oh, we're probably gonna play you guys, but that's when you guys lost to Armada. It's the
Yeah.
same LAN, and we're like, I guess we're
Yeah.
against Meerkat. Like what's going on?
Yeah, that was so
Yeah,
troll, man.
but yeah, that was a weird split. Like that'd be a fun like episode. Like I think we already talked a lot about the beginning of that year. That'd be fun to go through that, like that just entire split. Probably there's so many things
Yeah, that
to
first phase
talk
was so
about.
cool too because it was the first one with the best of 5 format as well, which I really liked personally. I was wondering about like, for example, I know like Kiki is somebody you've been friends with for a while, but I don't know if you played with him earlier. I remember you played with him in season 4 on Trifecta, right, for a split. And then I
Yeah,
also remember you had I remember you I didn't know much about Big Man as a teammate, but I remember you saying you like playing with him a lot in season 7 as well. I don't know if
yeah.
Big Man's the guy to have like any funny stories about, or if he seems like just a chill person to me, but yeah.
There's some funny big man stories. I have to think about it. I love Big Man so much, though. He's so he's awesome. He's so funny.
No, you're good. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I just wondered if you thought
Um,
of any.
Kiki, I played with in season 0 a little bit, but I played with
Oh,
Kiki.
okay.
That was the first like actual SPL phase I played with Kiki. But I was good friends with Kiki for so long before the. I mean, we didn't. Okay, let's talk about this. Her wins on the episode. This is perfect. You just segued this perfectly. Season 4, that second, that trifecta phase was probably like my least favorite SPL like split ever, and it was not because of the team I was on at all. Do you remember how we didn't scrim for literally like 6 weeks straight because we got locked out of scrims by like both the other 4 teams that were playing, and we like scrimmed like the Latam team, or we scrimmed like some random pickup like SOC team. Like we had no scrims going into the tournament. That was actually awful. So I feel like I didn't really get to experience like playing with everybody on that team like that much until like I never got to really play that much with you. I feel like after that because we didn't play, and then I played with Sino after, and like I loved playing with Sino, but it was like it's hard because we barely scrimmed that entire phase because I think it was like what like 4 or 5 weeks from like the end of the phase to like super regionals or whatever it was. I can't remember the exact timetable, but we like didn't scrim anybody for a very long time. It was awful.
Yeah, I don't even remember. Was it just because we were bad, or where people thought we were
No,
bad?
no. So I remember exactly. So what
I
happened
don't
was,
remember.
so were they SSG at that point? The Scary D, Zapman, Jigs,
Yeah.
are they called
Yeah.
SSG? That
Uh-huh.
that
Mhm.
roster. Okay, so there was that roster, and then um there was Noble, and then us, and then there was LG, and then E United, and that was the year you guys won Worlds, right, Mike? Yeah,
Mhm.
season 4, United versus LG, and so LG and E United would play each other exclusively, and you guys wouldn't scrim anybody else because that, like Mike said, I think we've talked about this before, is like you came into like eager, and that's kind of what they did. They picked one team and they just kind of scrim partnered them. So it was
Well,
like
that was
kind of
your
like
guys' fault actually. That was the get babied on.
yeah, yeah. That too. That too. And that as well. Um, but yeah, basically, you guys basically just scrimmed LG, and then I remember, I think you talked to Jigs a little bit at that time outside of scrims, and I remember he told you that he wanted to only scrim us, and like we shouldn't scrim anybody else because LG and United are only scrim each other, and it's my fault that we didn't get scrims because I was like, I'd rather just scrim everybody else. I don't want to just scrim one team. And then you're like, okay, that's fine. So you told them that, and then they went and told Noble, yo, let's scrim partner, don't scrim, don't scrim trifecta. So basically, Noble and SSG scrim partnered, and Noble only scrim partnered them. Like Moswell was, I think, on that team. That's when Moswell got owned as well. They were like Moswell scrim with them, and then they just played the land with Aduro like randomly, like last second.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
was
Oh
that
yeah, I
season 3?
forgot about that.
I don't know if that was season 3 or season 4, but yeah, I think I can't remember
That must have been
exactly.
3. That was
That
3, I
that was
think.
3. Was
Yeah.
Maswell Noble again season 4? Who was
He
on Noble?
was. Yeah, he
Yeah.
was.
Yeah. So I guess it was Maswell's team. Yeah. Regardless, so that Noble team was scrimming SSG, and I remember I think I talked to Maswell about this, and he's like, "Yeah, we were just scared we couldn't get scrim, so we agreed to it." So we literally were just sitting there, and I think we scrimmed some like I forget what name they were. They were like a LATAM like third seed we scrimmed. Do you remember? It was like a B. They were called like B something. They had like a B in their name.
Oh, yeah, I don't remember
Yeah,
their name.
but I
It's
don't.
too long ago.
Yeah, but we scrimmed that team, and that was like the one team we scrimmed against. And Sino, I remember Sino's like, I, "Dude, we're gonna win the LAN. I go 20-0 every game," and like I was like, yeah, dude, let's win this thing. I remember going into it, we literally scrimmed maybe like we didn't scrim. Oh, the other thing too, we didn't scrim an SPL team like once. I think we had like people like make pickup teams like try to scrim us as well. But it was like a whole month. I think it was like 5-6 weeks where we just didn't scrim, and it was awful. And it wasn't the Black Dragons. Isn't Black Dragons a Brazilian
It is, yeah.
team?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
But no, it was a LATAM team. But yeah, that was not fun for me. And I remember I was like, let me offer people this like money to scrim. Like I wanted to pay teams to scrim, and you guys
I
were like,
remember.
no, we're not
Yeah.
doing that. Like, everybody was like, no, that's not. We're not letting that happen. I'm like, okay, fine, because I was like, I'm down to pay LG or E United or SSG to scrim us, so we actually get some scrims before going to the LAN. And I remember, I can't remember who said it, but like, I'm not showing up to scrims if you pay people to scrim us or whatever. I'm like, okay, fine, so I won't do it. But yeah, it was not fun because I remember, um, I was talking to Shaywas, and they're like, yeah, you guys didn't have the best like time on that team. I'm like, yeah, because we didn't even scrim. We didn't even get a chance to have a time. I feel like that was like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
weirdest thing ever, for sure. That whole phase. But at least that never happened to me again, which was good. But I think the biggest thing was that there was 5 teams that qualified for the event, and then like it was the combination of the 5 teams qualifying, and then like the scrim team meta thing was still a meta, so that's what kind of wrecked us for sure.
Yeah, that was shitty, dude. I forgot about the scrim meta stuff, or like the scrim partner stuff.
Yeah.
I was always Mike and I would argue about that. I remember
Yeah.
all the time, because I would always just say like, it's like we're getting picked to lose. Like we couldn't even. It felt like if we couldn't get practice against better teams. I mean, this all started with Cog and Cog Red. I remember they're the first ones who
Yeah.
did it. And they won, which is like the problem because then everyone's like, "Oh, we should do that too," like since they're
Yeah.
winning doing it. So it just became like the two best teams. If there was ever like a discrepancy in the two best teams, it would just be like those guys would always like try to scrim partner, and then everyone else kind of got screwed. Like you could just see like take the Sanguine guys like even in later years like they were like good players and stuff, but they didn't have a chance to like learn everything they needed to learn to be like a competitive SPL team until they actually were in the league. And like if you put them in the league and there was people still scrim partnering and they only got to play good teams in SPL matches, they probably wouldn't have been that good that fast. And then people
Yeah.
might have just thought they were bad. It's just like that, that's only so much you can do. It's it's same with the other regions when they can't scrim us. And like but the problem is like it makes sense for the scrim partner team because then they just stay good.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it's just so unfortunate.
I remember when we used to argue on it. It took me a while to come around to it for sure, and I think it was kind of like, I mean, something I like realized I was kind of being a hypocrite because I really hate results-based thinking in general. Like you could make a bad decision and still have a good outcome, but it doesn't make the decision good, Like it depends on the context. That's like the gist of it, right? But I remember everybody would say stuff about scrim partnering, and I was thinking like in my head, well, like season 1, the best 2 teams in my opinion were the COG teams, like they scrim partnered, right? Like I don't remember 2 and 3 that much, but like season 4 or season 3, I remember in the finals it was Obey and Energy. They scrim partnered each other because they were the only 2 teams who made it from that region.
Hmm.
Season 4, us and LG were the same thing. We won Worlds. Season 5, us and Splice scrim partnered. They won Worlds. Like there
Well,
was a lot of like stupid like confirmation bias from it. And the argument that I always used to hate was that people were like I remember Hurry and I used to argue about it because I remember when you guys were going through that, like obviously that story sucks. But I remember like Hurry would just like vent, at the time. Like I don't know if he was, I mean, maybe you were pissed, I don't know. But like at the time it was like as if it was like the other people's responsibility to scrim a little bit. And I always disagreed with that just because like I remember we didn't even go into that split wanting to scrim partner. It literally happened because you guys canceled scrims on us because you got mad at, or whoever got mad at like what Scream typed when he was just like joking around. And then SSG did the same thing to us. Like SSG also, we scrimmed them, and Panda and I like farmed Zap and Jigs, and I think Panda probably, Panda was a kid, he probably spam taunted them or something like that.
Yeah,
But
you and your
they do.
ADCs spam
My
taunter
dude, him
ADCs.
and Coast both, dude. Coast was literally just like Max all over again. It is so crazy.
Yeah, little Max for sure, bro.
For sure. And they just like, I'm sure we just killed them and he spam taunted, like Max would spam taunt, and they canceled scrim. So in my head, I'm just thinking like these two teams are ruining our scrims. They're literally getting mad at us because we're just like beating them is like our perspective. So we're like, screw it, we'll just scrim this other team because like we know that they're gonna be like top two with us or whatever. It was just the way the split had shaken out. So we're like, yeah, like we know we're gonna be on opposite side of the brackets in the tournament. It just makes sense for us to like, because back then qualifying for Worlds was also way harder. Like nowadays it's like, what, 6 7 of the SPL teams end up making Worlds and that's it. But like back then we're in a league, like there's 2 leagues of 8 teams and only like 2 or 3 teams from your region even make Worlds. Like it was way more like survival mindset, I feel like.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
obviously
for
in the
sure.
obviously in the long run, like it is dumb. Like, and even in the short run, like I think if people were more creative back then, that's when I really learned my lesson. Was like I feel like season 6 SPL, there were so many like definitively different styles the way teams played the game. Like I remember we would play a lot of like magical junglers with double hunter comps. I remember like the old Renegades team, they'd play like Funball would be a mage every game and Dardas would play a hunter, whereas like I remember on Splice, like you would play a lot of like pressure supports Aurora, and like you guys like had your own starts that you did or whatever. Like every team was so unique where it was like if you don't practice against everyone, you're just not gonna know how to play against stuff and you're just shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah, because I mean, honestly, like at the end of the year, or, like even at the end of a phase, like if you're a team, like one of the better teams, like you end up scrimming the other better teams more often. But what I've always tried to do, at least, like I've had a couple good splits where we do well. I like to scrim like some of the other teams at least once a week, twice a week, maybe not like a bunch of times in a row where like for instance, like I think we scrimmed we mainly scrimmed like Levi's and we never scrimmed you. We didn't really scrim the dragons that much. I think it was just because we were always end up playing each other at like
Yeah,
LANs
we
or
scrimmed
whatever.
like 5 blocks the whole year or something. It was like nothing.
Yeah, but
We
we either
scrimmed you guys
scrimmed
a bit at the end last year.
Mhm.
we scrimmed Levi's, we scrimmed who was the other team that was Warriors, and then we scrimmed
Levi's,
Ravens.
Warriors, Ravens,
And
yeah.
then we'd still scrim Glads and Hounds as well. Like we'd still throw in like a couple games with them, like either like one like a Glads or Hound block, like at least like once a week, just to play them. Because I feel like you could still learn stuff from those teams, um, even if they're not having the best like thing as a team. Like you can pick some stuff up that they do just on certain gods. Like I think like Jake with Charon, I think he was really good at it, and I definitely picked up some stuff from him, and I definitely picked up some Charon stuff from you. I remember I was watching your stream, Hurry, to try to like see what you were doing with Charon. I saw you were like one of the first people to start maxing Charon one a lot of the time last year, and I started trying that. I liked it better than the two, but
Yeah, I did it, and I only didn't do it versus healers because they just heal the poke anyway. But it was like really the way you like play on the wave, you can like be way more aggressive if you can like one through the wave and like hit them with your one. Like better players don't like stack on the wave to hit them like with the two as well. I mean, two's
yeah,
better for like just like if you fight to the death, I guess, and you hit it. But also like the
yeah,
two, if you miss it, you're just like screwed. If you max it, you just like don't have another good ability. Two's still good, like without points. I don't know. You could play it a couple different ways, but that's a good point about like learning stuff from like other people. I mean, I think these days You know, with Smite, obviously there's no competitive this particular year, but you can like most people have matured to the point where you can learn stuff from like everybody a little bit, you know. Like I can watch a team worse than me like play a pick. Like I can watch like these days like okay, you see like okay, for example, you see like Snoopy play Eggshell or whatever. She's like a non-meta pick and you can like most people don't have the ego like maybe they used to back in the day where you can just look at them and be like, "Oh, you know, like it did this well. Like it had pressure here, like it was good at like fighting this, you know, like maybe I don't think it's the best pick, but you like give it credit. Like that's way more common these days. Back in the day, we'd just be like, that guy's bad, that character's bad, like we're not playing that, you know. But I feel like most people these days will actually like try to like give people that they think they're better than like a chance to like assume they're at least thinking with their brain, you know. Even
Yeah.
if they're not sometimes, like I'll tell you, Scream last year, I'm pretty sure he wasn't with some of the stuff he was playing, but I think when Scream was doing that, he was also trying to spite us a little bit. You know, it's kind of off topic, I guess, but you know, when Scream's playing Olaran Jungle, probably because we lost it when Sino was playing it. Like, you know, he's like, "Oh, I think it's good, guys," but I think he's just like trying to have fun. So I don't know. Depends.
Well, it's interesting too because I think even if this was definitely true later on, but I remember the whole thing about like scrimming multiple teams. I remember in season 6, like it changed the way I looked at scrims a lot because back then with the invade meta, I hated playing the teams with a European support player because I literally just didn't get practice on the start. Like when I would play against Raffer or Trix or Emilzy, they literally just or Kalas as well, like they just didn't invade at all. So like Twig would hate it and I would hate it because we're like one of the most important things at the start of the game and we're just winning it for free every game. So we just feel like it's so unrealistic. Like we're just getting a good start every game. Like of course it's going to be easier to play with the lead. So one of the teams like all year, even when they were doing poorly, like obviously in hindsight you can be like, oh, they won worlds. Of course they were good, but they really weren't. Like they were like a 6th or 7th place team, that SK team, the whole year. But we loved scrimming them because we got so much practice at the start of the game. Like Twig and I just both felt like our counterparts, like Neil and Sam, we just thought they were good at it. So we would always like get to learn just from that. And that was a really like eye-opening experience for me personally because I would always go into scrims against kind of like Aurora said, like even if they're not the best team or something, like I'll use like the Valks last year as an example. Like Kirmi was pretty good at like finding ganks early or like running like pressure picks or like kind of like they could get leads on you. And if you were being really greedy with your draft, I feel like you were able to see that against them. So you can still learn stuff. Like even if they don't play the late game as well as other teams, or even if they like mess up fights, like it doesn't mean it's a waste of time.
Yeah. No, we lost I think every SPL team last year. Yeah, we lost at least one game to like every team, even the phase we were first seed in. I think we lost a game to the Glads, we lost a game to the Hounds. Um, I think we lost our one set to Leviathans, and I think every team at least took one game off us in one of the best of series for sure. So there's always something to take from the games, 100%, which is good. And I feel like it just comes with people. Like I think I've talked about this before as well. Is like overall people are just getting better and better at games. Like
Yeah.
just like the ground level of how good people are when they go into a game is so much higher than it was like back at the beginning. Like when me and Herwin played in like season 1, or like when I saw Herwin play in ranked and I wanted to play with him, like Herwin did like he was way better than like the average rank player, and you could tell by being in a game with him. And that's why I wanted to play with someone like him. I feel like it's a lot harder to be better than the average rank player.
Yeah,
You have to
it's
be
hard
like
to distinguish people.
really really good now.
Well,
Um
like, yeah, because if you want a new player now, like, I
yeah.
mean, I'm sure, like, you know, I've definitely been in this situation a bunch in the past, like, 4 or 5 years where, like, you're like, should we get a new player? Like, someone who's, like, not tested. And you looked at the rank pool, and it's not that you think that they're all bad, but you're like, you know that they have to learn like a base level of like competitive smite before they can even like win. Like they have to learn stuff. Like they can't just be good and you put them on your team and they're immediately good. Like you have to put on your team, then you have to go split with them where they're actually like learning the base level, and then maybe the next split they're good. But people don't just like stand out like that anymore. But it's not because they're worse. It's just because, like you said, the base level of like expectation of like being a good smite player and being able to win is like so much different. I also feel like, by the way, on that point, when we were on chunks, I never felt this way. Like much after chunks, and it's not because we were bad, because I never thought we were bad, but I always thought like there were just some teams I felt like we just couldn't beat them. Like I just like we can't win because we're just like matching pure skill to pure skill sometimes, and like we just didn't really know what we were doing. We are kind of just like playing
Just
the game, you know?
rolling.
Yeah, we're like
We're
the most we
taunting
planned
the
out is
fuck
like
it
you're
all.
gonna taunt that guy and I'm gonna raw snipe him. You know,
Yeah.
like that's as far as we thought ahead, you know? Um
Or I
so
Fender
like I
ult
was
them
just
and
like
you
we
ult
can't
them.
win. Like I don't know why, like I can't figure it out in my brain. Like I feel like I'm smart, but I'm like, I don't know. Like it feels like every time we go against that team, it's like immediately we're like losing no matter what. And I don't
Even if,
really think like people were that much better back then. It's just we didn't know what to do.
I feel like if we played like another split, like we would have been so much better just from the stuff we learned and the stuff we picked up just from playing. I feel like um just getting that experience is super valuable. I think I was lucky. I played with someone who was new. I feel like to the scene, who was really good with Solar Troll. Season
True,
6.
yeah.
He didn't really have that much experience coming in, and he was very good. So I think it's
Yeah.
possible still. It's
I
just a
think
lot
Daniel was that
harder.
way too.
Yeah.
They
Well,
also had
yeah.
SEC experience, keep in mind
Okay,
as
dude,
well,
That's
that's
which
true
we didn't have
too.
back then.
That is
okay.
true.
That's what I was gonna say. Honestly, of all of the things people talk about with like the SPL format, I think the one thing that goes kind of by the wayside is having like there were kind of like three junglers. It was like Mask, Sino, and Adapting. Like all of them being in the SEC, they were like grandfathering in these like young players. You know, like I
Yeah,
don't
they
know how
learned from
long.
him.
Yeah, I don't know how long Sop played with Mask, but I know they played together for a good bit. Like they played together when they beat us, that Armada team. Like Daniel played with Sino for a ton of time. I know Coast always told me that he felt like he learned a ton from Kenneth when they played together in the SEC, and like it kind of took away for me, like when we had thought about picking up Pegon, it kind of took away that like worry about like, oh, like how much do we have to teach them? Like, are they ready to like play like actual comp smite and not just be a ranked player? Like, they already knew a good amount of that stuff. Like, what they were learning is like, here's how people scrim in the SPO. Like, here's how you do prep and like that type of stuff. Like before a set, that was way easier to teach than like, here's how to literally communicate to 5 other players when you're like only playing like, because if you're just a ranked player and you literally don't even use voice chat, like that's a really big skill set for some people. Like even now there's people who don't talk in the middle of the fight, like they don't feel comfortable doing it because they just want to focus on what they're doing, which can be fine, but also like sometimes you lose really important information that way. And I feel like that like the barrier of like how good you have to be, I feel like that has like kind of squished down a lot more over time. But I also think like that need for competitive experience has only gotten higher because if you're a new player and you play against like Zapman, for example, everything you're gonna try to do to him to just like outplay him by skill, like he's seen that, like over and over for 10 years. Like you're not gonna surprise him with something like that. I feel like nowadays, like you have to actually know how to like play good competitive smite in order to beat people like that.
I
Yeah.
feel like I feel like anybody in ranked can get a lead, but learning how to like push your lead and get like
Yeah.
advantages off it is like the hardest thing to do because you kind of have to plan for it. And I feel like a lot of the people that I've coached over like the last couple months, last years, like I always tell them like all the teams at least that I'm coaching, like planning stuff is super important to win. Like even something as little as like we should play this proc camp. Like we just got proc. We should play this next proc camp because we're way stronger than them on this side of the map because we have a lead. Or like, oh, we have 2 level lead in dual lane on our hunter. Like let's hit their purple again. Like we can keep playing this purple. Or like and then like adjusting the plan as the game goes on too. Like learning how to do that. Like okay, we're invading purple. Like you talked about it. I think I remember I was watching your stream with or your you were talking bring Scream back in this again. You were talking about how Scream got a lot of stuff from League and like how you
Yeah.
guys had like a strat where you would go to their speed buff and like invade that over and over again, and then you would fake invade it and then go hit their do it tier 1 and dive it. And like that's a plan, and you're adjusting the plan based on the pace of the game and like what's happening in the game. And doing that is such a hard skill to pick up, and if you're able to do that, you put yourself way higher than I feel like a lot of other players. And I think learning how to do that um making it happen as well in the game. That's the other thing. Like you can say a plan as much as you want, but executing on it is like another thing as well that you have to
Yeah.
actually do. And it kind of makes it hard. Like m- me and Sen always laugh when we play ranked. We're like, okay, are we playing ranked to get better, or are we playing ranked to have fun? Because like whenever I com with Sen on rank and we're trying to like make plans around the map, like if you're two people in rank trying to make plans with like three random ranked players, like you're gonna lose like 90% of the ranked games you play. So like when I play ranked with Simon, it's like, okay, are we using comms or not? Because if we don't use comms, we'll probably win more ranked games. But if we talk to each other, we're gonna try to make a plan, and we're gonna end up losing the game off it. But yeah, it's hard, but it's like a skill that you have to develop as a player if you want to kind of get to the next level. And I think it's super important, and I think it's super like undervalued um by a lot of these teams that are newer, like either like collegiate teams or like SOC teams that play in AGL or Vulpes. Like if you're trying to get better as a team, make plans, and the plans don't have to be some grand scheme with like 7 steps. Like, okay, we have good dual lane this game, we're playing Proc. Like that's all you have to do. Like it doesn't have to be some like complicated plan, and then actually execute on it or adjust the plan if something goes wrong before you can actually execute on it, and then just change the course. Don't be like, okay, dual lane got killed, we can't play Prod anymore. Oh, GG, just farm. You can't just do that. You have to be like, let's try to get like mid camps or something instead.
Yeah,
Like,
you have to do something.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I feel like that's a skill that I feel like if you can develop, like you'll be very good at Smite for sure.
I'm sure you guys have felt this as well, but I also think people being able to feel out the pace of the game is very different at a pro level of play. Like, I'll use an example because even though Tyler hasn't played support as long, I'm sure he's still like felt it, especially like metas that are faster, like when people are really trying to like hard snowball or play through duo or something, or like if it's an invade meta or anything like that. You can still be calculated in what you're playing, but you're still playing the map really quickly. And then eventually you like turn it off a little bit. You know, you get to like 15 minutes and like now I'm probably not going for a purple buff by myself and doing something dumb alone. Like I'm going to be grouped with my team, or I'm going to be like trying to play around an objective. And I feel like learning how to like change pace in the middle of the game is really important. And it also like you kind of can't learn that unless you're actually like in the SPL, like playing against those players and like playing a lot in scrims. So I feel like,
You need SPL games too. Not even like some scrims
yeah,
you
for
just don't
sure.
even get that. Like there's
I mean,
some
even
metas that use
tournaments are different,
scrim.
right? Like tournament to like normal game day, it's different. The pace.
Yeah, because like some scrims you get like are just bad. Like not bad.
Yeah.
Like all like bad in terms of like learning like the pace of the game. Because like I feel like SPL to scrims is so different as well. Like I don't know if you like. I'm curious. Like your support now as well, or you played support the last phase. Like did you? Was it like the same in mid as it is in support? That like the you could feel the whole pace of your game is completely different in a scrim versus in SPL, because maybe in a farming role it's like more similar because you're kind of just you're just farming up and like fighting when you get opportunities. But as a support, like everything's so much slower in actual SPL games. I feel like
Yeah,
even
so
if you're
like
running it down.
SPL game, you felt like well, like as a laner, you're definitely like in mid is maybe the least so this way, but in like an SPL game, you're just like way more wary of like where you are, where you can die. And so like you just like intentionally just you'll play way less, like you're less willing to like make plays, and you're way more like focused on like just choosing safe plays. And I feel like in scrims, like you're just way more willing to like take the risk and like go for the, pushing the wave on their tower, or like the rotation or something like that, or like the 1v1. I guess it doesn't really happen that much anymore, but um
The
and I in support
50-50.
in support, I feel like it's more like my team is doing a lot, is playing a lot different than like me playing a lot different. Like everyone is like I'm sure like it drives people nuts or whatever, and I was just kind of used to it and I knew what to expect, but like everyone is giving me all the information. I mean, you hope this happens, but like everyone is giving you the information that you need to like make better decisions that you don't always have like in a scrim setting. And so and I feel like when everyone has all that information, everyone's just like way more careful and stuff too. So I feel like as a support, basically, I'm changing to the way that like my laners are playing now that they're like fully respecting all the information that you're getting, and you just kind of know a lot more about what's going on in the map. People are like just like running it down a little bit less, I guess, kind of.
Yeah.
I know as a carry player, like I just didn't care about dying in practice as much, and I was like, but when it came to game day, I was like, I do not want to be the guy like dying. I'm just gonna focus on like doing my farm, and like I'm only gonna make like more obvious plays. Which honestly, like I always going back and forth on this. Like I think maybe it's incorrect, like playing like too safe, and it's not necessarily safe, but like smart around the information that you know. Um, but I definitely do remember like like it's like I'll play like Uller every scrim, and the guy's literally basically letting me kill him, and so I just think the character's better, and then I get to game day and like the guy is like sitting under his tower, not letting me like fight him or poke him out anymore. Um, but as a support, like stuff like that doesn't directly change, in my opinion, that much, unless someone's really running it down. But for the most part, I feel like I'm doing the same like plays, more or less. Like risky plays as support don't feel as risky as they do to me when I was playing mid. Like I feel like I mean, I found this out the hard way. I mean, you still do get insta killed sometimes when you do the wrong thing, as tanky as I'm supposed to be. And I'm like, oh, I've got my full thieves. I'm like doing pretty good. Like, surely I can just, invade his purple buff by myself, and then I'm dead in 1 second. I'm like, oh, like okay, maybe I can't do that. But in my mind, I'm like, I have a little bit more leeway to like get away with stuff, or like it's also my job a little bit more, Like, I feel like the early like 10 minutes, I'm supposed to be like putting pressure on the map or like making plays and trying to be proactive. As a mid laner, I feel like over the years, it was like you're not supposed to do that. When the Pauls of the Shitos joined the league and everyone's like just farming, it was like you are not supposed to do anything. You just farm and like get fed.
And then Pagon joined the league, and then he Susano 3'd in.
Yeah, then he changed
I
it, but I didn't
know.
play for that, so I guess I didn't see that. But
And then he jumped
he
over the
changed it
walls,
back.
Raijin, and killed him.
Yeah, he jumps on you at red
On
buff by
speed.
himself.
No,
Yeah.
on speed buff. Who was that? Was that against Twig
It
where he
was
just
Twig,
jumped?
yeah.
He jumped on
Yeah.
Twig. He was blind, no vision, jumps over speed buff wall and starts banging the drums and saying, "Hey, I kind of want your speed buff right now. Let me get that." Oh
Yeah,
man.
it really is crazy because just the evolution of the game, I feel like that's the main thing I see is like Daniel definitely would open my eyes up to that a lot where people like it kind of like goes back and forth, right? Like you have the thing where people are just being undisciplined and they're fighting too much and they're not farming. And then there's just going to be a player like that, like a player like Paul, for example, like something I would always say to a lot of people like going into a game. This was like the number one thing that I hated. You know how people would talk about like Paul picks when he was on like SK when he was playing like Hell and Hebo every game. People would be like, "Oh, do you like ban Paul or do you let him play it or whatever?" And the stuff I always hated, people were like, "Oh yeah, like we should just pick Fenrir into Hebo. That'll be really good or something like a full damage Fenrir." And it's like
He's
when you
just
get
gonna
to
one shot you.
yeah, when you get to late game, he's just gonna one shot you. Like you can't make a game plan around killing a player
Yeah.
who is aware of what you're gonna
Also,
do. Like,
also, sorry to interrupt you, but
like
he's
a
a dual player. Like he's gonna
yes,
go breastplate Paul. Like
yes,
he's gonna get his breastplate. You're not gonna do anything to him.
yes. Like he's not an idiot, you know. Like he's not gonna just let you kill him for free. You're not gonna win the game off killing like Shinto or whoever 20 times. Like, and I think that's a mindset that the people used to have a lot of the time. But it was so weird to me because then Pegon joined the league and he's not like, oh yeah, like we'll just win late game by me being Susano into these picks. He's like, I'm gonna kill him in the laning phase. Like, I'm just gonna kill him now because he viewed it as like, well, if they're gonna be passive in the laning phase, I get to get away with more. Like, I can get away with playing like Susano or Gilga if I think these characters are European team fights, which he did, which is why we played them. He didn't just think it was like a cheesy lane strat. He was just like, oh yeah, if I get to late game and I have like a Gilgamesh shot, I just think it's OP. Like I can just engage every fight, like that type of thing, you know? Um so yeah, it is really interesting how I just feel like at the end of the day, if you're good at something, you can make it work as long as you have an idea of what your team wants to do together, which is kind of the planning thing that you had said, Aurora. I think I want to get to. There's a couple things I wanted to ask her, and I know you guys also want to talk about ranked a little bit.
Yeah.
Uh, I guess the obvious thing to ask her is kind of what your experiences were like. I know you talked about it a little bit on your teammate tier list, but not as much. Like specifically the difference from playing mid to support. I'm curious about because I don't know how well you remember it, but I always remember because we've just been friends. We would talk a good bit back when you were on like CLG, for example, about like we would get annoyed when like one person would do like this thing or like something that we used to hate was like I always hated it when I thought a support player was like KDA saving, like that type of thing. And I always felt like your mindset would transition to support really well. And I'm kind of curious as you look back on it, like how you feel the differences were or like what you've noticed from both sides about those two roles.
Yeah, we'll say the grass. One thing I'll say is like the grass is always greener on the other side,
Yeah.
and like I kind of knew that going in, of course. And I don't feel like I was the worst offender of this, so I don't feel that bad about it. But like after playing with someone like Ven's always like talking about how like my role is unkillable and OP and you can't ever do anything. And like I'm always like, I hope I wasn't like that because like there's literally like I'm playing the role and I feel like they could just kill me if they wanted to whenever they wanted.
Yep.
Like the most obvious thing, like I remember because Fafnir was really like everyone was playing Fafnir, and Aurora like would play Fafnir, but he would always be like, he's not impossible to kill, like just go on him. And I would always be like, he's trolling, like that god is so hard to kill. And then I'm playing Fafnir, and I feel like they just jump on me. I'm like, oh shit! I jump away and I ult, and I'm just like transforming in the middle of everybody, and then I'm just dead instantly. And I'm like, wow, yeah, I guess he's kind of right, like. But like in the moment, like from as a mid laner's POV, I think like you like inherently you think you have to give people like more respect, and from the support POV, it's like everyone's killable. Like if you just take 5 seconds to actually like hit someone, like no matter what, as long as you're not really behind, like everyone can die in this game.
Yeah.
Like even if you're like a tank role, and like yeah, it takes longer, but I just think like it's a big mental game, like supports play versus other people, and you understand it a lot better once you play support. Um, but I also like understand like when I'm playing support, I was like, dude, I cannot kill these mid laners, like I cannot get to them or put pressure on them. But like as a mid laner, it feels you're playing like the game feels like you're playing like on a knife's edge a lot of times. Like it feels that way as a support player, but as a mid laner, you have to be like very precise with your positioning and like how you're playing certain things. It just feels that way when someone's playing like really perfectly. But I do like have compassion for both sides. And I think it's like a little dumb that everyone always thinks like the other role is like can't do anything, because I think both people have to play like really well for it to feel that way. Like the only reason you feel that way is because someone's playing really well. Like playing versus Paul, the guy's like, I can never get on him, but I know from mid laner's POV, like he feels like if he takes like 2 steps out of position, he's just dead. So it's like it's more complicated than it seems. So I just think everyone needs to understand that it's a lot easier said than done, and also SPL playing the role is a lot different than playing the role anywhere else in both roles. Like in SPL, it's like support. Like I can't just run around and do whatever I want, like I need my team to be there to like back me up for certain plays, or I have to go in knowing that like I'm okay with like dying in that situation or whatever. And as funny as it is, like, oh, I'm gonna run it down, like your teammates are never that happy when you're dying a bunch. So
You can say what they want, but when I have 14 deaths, they're like,
yeah, they're
"What is
never
this
like
guy
I'm like
doing this game?"
I joke
Looks
around the
like that.
screen. And he's like, I'll be like, you should be happy I'm drawing all this attention off of you. And he's like, yeah, real fucking funny, hurry. Just stop fucking feeding though. Like I know you think it's funny, but like stop feeding. Like stop just dying intentionally. I'm like, I don't
That's
know,
the
but it's like
worst.
sometimes I could go for that play and it's perfect and it works out because they just like the other team just respects me too much, or they just like miss something or whatever. But like though they just this time they decided to punish me for it. Scream. He's like, I don't care. Just don't do that anymore. But I just love it because everyone's like, oh, support's so unkillable. And like, I definitely know that I'm very killable if people want to kill me most of the
Dude,
time.
that's why I hate playing against Sino, because for most of
He
his
knows.
career, yes, dude, for most of his career, he would show support. No, like if you run it, some junglers, like if I run it like adapting, he's like, oh, this guy just wants to waste my time. I'm not going to give him the time of day. I'm not going to give him the chance to get me. And I run around, I see Sino in the jungle, I'm like, oh shit, I'm dead. Like he just starts pranking me, you know? He's just like, what is this idiot doing here? It's just like bang, 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 you know?
If
Like
I
he just wants me
Fafnir
out
him,
of there.
if I Fafnir hammer that guy in the enemy jungle, like he's at his backside Fafnir him, he will chase me to the other side of the map to like punish me for that. And most people are like, oh, the support's here, like, it's waste time to go on him. But yeah, like you said, Simon was just like, he's getting you, dude. Like he's not gonna let that slide. Even if he dies, he doesn't care. Like he'll
Of
convince
course.
himself that's worth it. But as a support player, it's very annoying, like he does not hesitate to like all in me and ult me, like Erlang
Yep.
ult me, like I'm a hard to kill character. I'm thinking like no way. I keep saying Fafnir, but he's like, the harder to kill support. The guy Erlang ult me, like, and I'm just thinking like, surely I'm not in trouble here, but I find out pretty quickly like, oh, I can be in trouble pretty quickly, like if they really want me to
Yeah,
be.
you get
So
the half off of Erlang ult, and then you're like, okay, I'll just ult and jump out. Oh, you ult?
yeah,
You're ulting in front of me. And you think they're like Fafnir's ulting, and the hunter's like coming over from dueling on his Hachi horse.
yeah, in 1 second, yeah,
And then he misses his Hachi ult, but he's right there to follow up, and then he Hachi dashes, and you're like, oh, I guess I'm dead. I can't jump. Oh man. Two things though. Um, the worst thing, I've had so many games, even this last year. I'm no stranger to it. I've died. Like I know like I could prevent it if I want, but if I prevent it, then the game will probably just lose. Um, and not have a shot at winning. But there's been games where I have like 10 deaths, and I just know from the start. I'm like, okay, I can either have 10 deaths this game and like try to make some plays happen, or we're just gonna lose like
bleed
the game,
out
and I'm gonna
and
do
yeah,
nothing. I'm just gonna watch. I'm just gonna watch from the sidelines. So I'll go in there, and then my team's like, "Why are you intentionally inting?" I'm like, "I am not intentionally inting. I'm like trying to make a play happen." Like they're like, "You just stop inting." I'm like, "I'm not inting. I swear to God, I'm not inting. I'm literally just going in there one-shotting me." And then the other funny thing is too, is that Baskin would always laugh at me, especially this year, would be like I start getting hit by someone, like a Raijin, for example, and he'd do me and then hit me with his one, I'd be like, I'm dead. I would say that, and Basket would start laughing and saying, you're not dead, dude. I'm like, if he jumps on me, I can't do anything. I'm dead. Like, that's the thing with Raijin, was like, I loved playing Raijin and going on the support and ranked, because like, you Raiju them, one them, then jump on them. And if no one goes on you when you jump on them, you just Raiju one them, jump on them again, and then they die. And it's
yeah.
like, it's so funny. But like, I'm always running around saying, I'm dead, I'm dead. Like, when anyone's hitting me, that's like my favorite thing to say is, I'm dead. Whenever I'm getting gone on, that's like the calm.
Well, you're just dead if they really want you to be. That's how it feels.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious about ranked a little bit. I haven't been playing as much lately personally, but I know this is something you wanted to talk about. Aurora. I know we like all three of us have been playing a little bit of WoW and doing that, so I'm kind of curious just what everyone's been up to and how it's treating you.
Well, I'll go first because this is definitely a hot topic for me. I was loving ranked at the beginning of season 11. I don't know what it was. Like rank resets sometimes suck, but this one felt pretty good for the most part. There were some games that just felt like unwinnable, which is normal for ranked and whatnot. But I was having a good time. But I don't know what it is. The last like 6 or 7 times I streamed ranked. I guess the very last time I streamed it was a little bit better. And I want to talk about this as well. That hasn't to do. It doesn't has nothing to do with ranked, but I feel like it affects me in ranked when I stream. I'll talk about that later. And it's not for the reason that either of you guys would probably guess either. Um, but I don't know. I haven't been having a time. I was really mad the other day. I was literally losing my mind the other day on stream. That was like the most mad I think I've ever got in ranked on stream ever. I was like, if I lose this game, I'm not playing again until Smite 2 comes out. I was so mad. I was so mad. I was literally losing my mind. Oh my god. That was wrong, by the way. I did play ranked the other night. um, nothing is gonna keep me out of the ranked games. I just like playing too much. But no, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I think the one thing that's been affecting me when I've been playing, which I guess I've started to notice more because I've been trying to do a better job of playing ranked, especially now, like on stream. is like I don't play games. I don't have a double monitor set up at all, and I can't really read my chat. I feel like good when I'm streaming, and I think it makes me play worse. Me thinking that I'm not doing streaming
Mm.
efficiently. Like I feel like when I stream, I feel like I'm doing a really bad job of it, and I know I could do better if I just connect another monitor in and have my chat up on the side. But I hate double monitor setups because I've tried it before and I feel like it really takes a lot of my focus away from the game. Even if I have it like even if it's turned off, like I don't know what it is. Like I'll get into this habit when I have double monitor, but I'll like just keep glancing at it like off, even if it's off. Like I don't know, like it's like driving is like a good example. Like how you have to glance at your mirrors like when you're driving. Like it's just like something you do, and like I just get into a habit of doing it, and it like drives me crazy when I'm playing games. I'm like, I'd rather just not have another monitor on my table and just play with one monitor. I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's just like Rage Mike says, it's is it distracting? It's not. It is distracting for sure, but it's not the part that it's distracting me. It's me getting mad that I feel like I'm doing a worse job. I guess from the distraction. Like I don't mind it being I guess I do mind. I don't know. It's weird. I just I think if I streamed with double monitor, it would fix my streaming issue, and I wouldn't feel as bad on stream when I'm playing ranked if I had double monitor. But at the same time, I feel like it would take away from my game, like my game experience, like in any game, even like in a game like WoW, where like you don't really need that much focus. To be honest,
Yeah.
playing classic WoW, you can play it pretty easily. But I feel like I just frustrate myself with how I've been streaming because of that. And I think I was talking to my brother about it. And he's like, just do what's fun. Like if you just want to play ranked and stream and not really talk to your chat, just don't worry about it. And that's what I would do in the past, but I feel like now I felt more obligated, which I is dumb, I guess, because of the SPL being over to like if I'm gonna stream, I should do it like the right way in my mind. But I guess there isn't really a right way. I just need to do it how I find it fun, I guess, and maybe I'll enjoy it more.
Don't you literally still have a command in your chat where it's like Aurora will like answer questions after the game, you know, like that, like he's focused on the game. I swear, I don't know if it was like a command or if it was like a timed bot thing, but I feel like you had that forever.
I think it's still there. I actually don't know if it's there or not. I think it is though.
I gotta check. Hold on, let me see this. I don't know what I would type. Is it like
I think it would just
chat Aurora? In game, in game Aurora is bad at reading chat. There you go, just instantly.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's still there. Yeah.
yeah, I love it. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's interesting though because it's interesting to me that you would get upset at it because I feel like some of the other things that you probably take for granted, other people probably appreciate a lot more. Like, for example, I know something you've talked about is that you feel way more comfortable answering questions that people have about like what characters or what items are built or like, oh, what would you build if you were playing this god? Like now that we don't have the SPO, I feel like you've been
Yeah.
really open with that type of stuff. So even if you're only answering questions between games, people would be more willing and like more excited to hear what you have to say just because you are being more open, you know? Or
Yeah.
even just hearing yourself talk about the game because there's plenty of times where like you're talking about the game, you might not say a ton, but you're just like it could be something really short where you're just like, oh yeah, they're dead here if my teammate does this or something like that. Like it still adds value even if you're not like, you know, hey, what's up, Robert? Like how's your day going? You know, like you don't have to do all of that.
Poor Robert. I didn't give him his hey.
I know.
Well, how do you feel about like streaming and chatting with your chat and stuff? Or you feel like you do a good job with it, or like where are you at with all that? I feel like I'm like F tier. Like if there was a tier list, I would be like at the bottom with that.
Yeah, no, like I don't know. I just see like I just it's hard for me to not see streaming as like a social thing a bit.
Yeah.
So like, if I'm not feeling very social, that might be my reason for not wanting to stream, for example. Um,
So that's how I was
but
feeling too about it. That's why
yeah,
it was
yeah,
hard for me to like stream. That's why I'm like in this like predicament. Do I stream or do I not? Because I feel like you're saying, it's really about the social aspect, and like I don't know how much value my stream's bringing if I'm just like gameplay or whatnot nowadays.
yeah.
So
Well,
I don't know.
everyone was always just gonna tell you the same thing because they're always gonna say like, just we don't care. Like I'd rather you stream than not stream. But then like
Yeah.
I get it. and like I understand it because I've been on the other like shoe with that. I mean, maybe I don't like, you know, maybe it doesn't pertain to me as much, but like I feel like, I'm doing it, but like I'm like not doing like as good a job as I could be, and I feel like guilty about that. So when I stream, I'm definitely like trying to like respond to everybody that I can. Obviously, like if I get hosted by someone, there's like 1,000 people and everyone's talking. It's like very overwhelming if you're trying to do that. So you can't like keep up with it like even then. But then I get frustrated because like I'm playing worse because I'm like not paying attention. But I think I've just tried to do my best to like I have to compromise on the gameplay more than like I'm more willing to compromise on the gameplay than I am the stream like quality. I couldn't do that before, which is why I hated streaming because I feel like I had to care more about the gameplay, but right now for the time being, I can care more about the stream and like playing like bad doesn't matter that much. But it's still hard to break that and there's some days I get really frustrated because I feel like I'm playing worse and my games are going worse and like I know I shouldn't care about it but like it's just a bad day or like I'm in a bad mood or something and um then I'm just like like maybe not necessarily lashing out at people but I'm like not being like
You're just more irritable or whatever.
yeah, I'm just not being like as like, nice to
Yeah.
people as I usually would be.
Like for me, like I'll start complaining about things, and I feel like it's not fun to watch someone stream if they're just complaining about like certain things in the game. So that's another thing too, that like it'll like snowball for me. Like I'll be like this and then that, and then I'll just start complaining. I'm like, no one wants to watch me complain, dude. I just want to turn my stream off at this point. Like it just gets so bad. I don't know.
Well,
Yeah,
I
you'd be
think it's
surprised. Some people actually don't mind it that much, but that's how I feel too. I just can tell like I'm being annoying.
yeah, I think it's hard for me too. I don't know if either of you have had this, but streaming for me was tough because normally I would have days where like especially like during the season, like I would think it's like maybe competitively bad to stream exactly what you're going to play or like exactly what you want to do. But let's say there's like a new big patch or something or especially at the start of the year like it has been recently. I feel like that's one of the more fun times to stream because even if I don't want to talk to chat, like I'll think out loud about like, oh, like I want to spend this day playing with like, this item to see like how it feels. Like maybe I would do a whole like week where I'm just like, I'm only playing Thorn supports. I'm gonna see how that feels. And the next week I'm only gonna play like, whatever, like rejuvenating heart supports is what I'm gonna play now that it got buffed this week. And I would do stuff like that just to like feel things out. But I haven't even had motivation to do stuff like that, honestly, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's, like, part of it is, like, waiting for, like, Smite 2 because of, like, the play test or, like but part of me just thinks, like, I'm not really that motivated to play the game as well as I can, so if I do have a day where, like, I'm not feeling that social, and I don't feel like I can be, like, super charismatic or have a lot of fun with it, like, for me, it's been really hard to motivate myself just because I don't feel like I'm playing for everything, playing for anything, and I hate that feeling. I hate feeling like I'm just logging on and clocking in hours. I'm not actually like doing something or pushing myself. That's like such a bad feeling to me personally.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but don't you think you could do it like I mean I watch you stream like I guess that's why like for you like tier list content stuff like that is a bit easier because you can just fully like immerse yourself in it and you're
Yeah.
kind of like not split brained and you can kind of just give like 100% to one like side of it
Yeah.
because it just melds when you're doing that stuff because that's like competitive plus like like
Mhm.
the social aspect
your tier
and
list streams are so good too.
Honestly, in a weird way, like I think I tweet about this too. Like I really like that content because I just like talking and I also just like thinking back to stuff like that. And in a way, it's like I found I'm not going to go through like this whole rabbit hole now because I could go forever about it. But like when I was in the middle of talking about like some of my former teammates with like Rival and Ghost and stuff, I was like, I literally had the realization where I was like, wait, I didn't realize like we actually did pretty well on those teams. Like all I remember is like the downsides of it, or all I remember is like losing the finals or whatever. And it really helps me put things into perspective and think about like I actually had a lot of fun like on those teams with those people and like I really enjoy that aspect of it or like doing like random like rankings or stuff like even if it's dumb like even if it's not actually that serious about competitive smite or like comparing teammates or comparing like how good I think players were, like the player god list thing. I have a lot of fun with just because it's like you go through it and I'm like, oh crap, there was a game where like Deathwalker locked in Ares and you like remember what it was like to watch at that moment. So I really enjoy that type of stuff for sure.
Yeah. All right. I want to get into another topic that is big. This is like the last thing I want to talk about is like Smite 2. What do you think, Hurry? What are you excited for? Like what are some of the things you're looking forward to with the game? And I mean, I know we're not allowed to talk about like us playing it at all and everything, but just like from the outside looking in, I guess, like what are some things you're excited about coming to the game and just stuff they can do in the future with it?
Yeah, have you heard me talk about this at all before? No, right?
No.
Um, yeah, so I personally think like there's a lot of cool stuff that they can do. Like my main criticism that I'll have, and this is like a general criticism, not like based off of anything that we've done, obviously, because we can't talk about that. Is I'm a little worried about like them getting everything done that they like want to get done because it's just such a big project. And I
Yes.
know we know a lot of people that are working on it, and I have faith in them, and I know some of them put in like insane hours, and that they're very passionate about it. So like I have faith in them because of that, but sometimes like I worry that it's like such a there's just so much stuff that they want to do. And so I hope that they like pick and choose like like what battles they want to take, especially early on. Stuff to like make the game like as fun as it's going to be. Like everything looks really nice, but I hope they don't get like too caught up in that stuff. Like I don't know whose job, like obviously like someone's job is to do that, and it's not like someone who can't do that is going to be working on that necessarily. And I don't know all the ins and outs of like being a designer, or like a producer or whatever. But I hope they focus on making the game feel as good as possible over everything else, because I think that's the most
Yes.
important thing. I always say like if the game is good, it's gonna do really well, but the game has to be good. And like so far with everything the general public's seen, like I think they've like with what they've done a pretty good job with that. But I just hope that they like continue on that trend. The one thing I'll say, and this is like not like specifically like anything about the game, but just like with the playtests, I've already had this criticism on stream before too, but I wish they would like set it up a little bit differently with like how we're testing stuff, because I just had the experience and a couple times I've done it where I'm against like full pre-mades every time, and I don't really necessarily care that like I'm losing, but when I'm getting like stomped, it's a little bit hard for me. Like every game, it's a little hard for me to like actually like give feedback on certain stuff. So I wish they would like kind of use their playtest time a little more wisely and like maybe plan it out a little bit more, or have like more specific objectives. And maybe they will later, but right now it kind of feels
Yeah.
like go do whatever you want with it. But I wish it was a little bit more like we want you to test this, or you need to like all like join solo queue at the same time, and whatever. But my experience has like been not the best just because of that. But the actual game itself uh looks really cool, feels really cool, and I hope that they don't limit themselves as well too much on what they're willing to do with characters. Like I hope they're not afraid to be like, oh, everyone loves Rama
Loki?
alt, so we're not gonna Loki, so we're not gonna change him at all. Like I hope that they have like that the confidence to be able to just like remove things that people like may like in favor of like making a better game or making a more interesting game. Because there's a lot of whiners out there. I can be one of those for sure. But I hope that like people whining about like specific things like me doesn't stop them from doing what they think will make a better game.
Dude, maybe no, like one of the mechanics I think are so interesting to see what they'll do with it is they literally like just this past year in season 10 they released Marty and everyone just hates it. Everyone just hates like Marty and Kama and Freya, and like whenever they're OP they're just like character goes in Aaron one shots me, hate it. Like I wonder what they'll do with stuff like that, because I do think it's a really, I feel like there's a lot of elements in Smite 1 that weren't even necessarily like designed or created by the people who work on it now, like it might not have been like one of their core ideas or intent with like this is like something we want to build the game around. And I feel like it's a really interesting opportunity for them to kind of reevaluate that, like you said, and revisit like maybe maybe they had a rule where they're like, I mean, for example, like they didn't have hybrid items, right? Or like we'd have class locked items, and maybe now they're like, you know what, we just want everything to be completely open, and if something's broken, we'll see what happens. I think stuff like that is cool.
Yeah, I think for me, as long as they get the foundation like really stable and it's good, I think they can build upon it, like, and keep building, keep building. And I think the game's gonna turn out really well. But I think, like Curry's saying, like, it's super important that they get the feeling down of Smite as best to their abilities they can. And I'm excited for, like you said, like the things they can do with gods, the things they're gonna do with items. Like they've had videos about how items are gonna be components now. There's gonna be active items. They can do a lot more things, I feel like, and they have a lot more tools like at their disposal to like make things happen. So I'm excited to see what they do for sure. Um, where can people find you at, Hurry? Like you've been streaming a bit. Have you been doing any YouTube or anything like that?
Yeah, I just started up with it again. I have an editor who's a friend of mine who's gonna help me be more consistent because it's hard for me sometimes to do that or feel like motivated to do that. So yeah, I've got everything is under the same name: Twitch, YouTube, um,
Was it just
and
Herwind?
Twitter. Yeah, it's just Herwind on everything.
Dude,
Just
lucky
my name.
boy.
Well, no one wanted to steal my like. I'm just not as popular as you guys maybe, so like no
Oh
one's trying to
yeah.
steal my ass. So yeah, I got those. My YouTube, I'm not at 1,000 subs yet, but once I get to 1,000 subs, I'll get my like unique,
Go sub to his YouTube right now.
my unique, I'll get my unique at or whatever, because right now I still have like numbers and stuff in it. But once I hit 1,000, after the tier list viewer video dropped, I got a lot closer. But as soon as I get there, it should be
Wait,
just
what's
her.
your at now then?
Uh, I'm not actually sure. If you just
Let me
type
go
Herwind
find
in
it.
YouTube, you'll find me. But like, if you try to type it in the exact like URL, I think it doesn't work right now because it has like numbers because that's how YouTube works for whatever reason. So, but I'm close to that. But that's what it should be soon. Hopefully, as long as I keep uploading. So,
You have
and you
anything
lovely people
else
subscribe.
going on besides like YouTube and Twitch? Like anything that you want to share? Any like personal projects or like anything random that you've been up to or no?
That's a good question. Yeah, I'm technically applying to like jobs in real life, to be an engineer. I don't necessarily like need help with it. It's just like a process kind of. So I'm doing that. So like if my I will continue streaming even if I get a job. Like obviously I'll stream less, but I'm still plan on staying connected to the Smite community. A lot of my friends are in the Smite community, and I obviously love the game as much as I criticize it. So I'll still be involved regardless. So it's not like I'm just gonna up and disappear whenever that happens. So just so people are aware, like that's kind of my plan. Is I'll still stay connected with Smite. Like how Hazer does stuff. He has a job, but he still streams on the weekends. I still expect to be connected in some way, even if I'm not playing or streaming full time. So.
Nice. And then for the podcast, do you want to let them know where they can find it, Mike? There's a lot of places
Dude,
now.
that's what I was just thinking. I've been trying to find here, I'm gonna link it in our chats, Aurora, but I'm gonna link Hurry's YouTube channel. Everyone should go follow him on this. I'll put a link in the description of the VOD as well for people who aren't listening live right now. But yeah, you can find it on my Twitch, Aurora's Twitch. It'll be on whatever guest Twitch we're having. Like Hurry right now, we'll put it live on his channel whenever we do it. And we have been, for those who don't know, who haven't watched recently, we have had a new YouTube channel. So youtube.com at traveler'sproc, no apostrophe or whatever, just traveler'sproc. You can find all the VODs there and still on inside the SPL on Spotify. But yeah, we a lot more channels now. So if you want to listen,
Yeah.
if you want to listen, you should be able to do it. You got options.
You definitely got, and then we also stream live on the YouTube right now. It's
Yeah.
live as we're speaking. So if you want to watch it over there, feel free to. It's on myself, Mike's, and the YouTube now. And then, like Mike said, we got Spotify, we got YouTube, we got a little bit of everything going on now. So thanks for coming on, Hurry. Appreciate it. It was a lot of fun to have you on. Me and Mike. When we were talking about guests, you were definitely one of the first names that popped up, so it was cool to have you on finally.
Yeah, no, I'm happy. Like I said, like I was wondering, like it was taking a little long to get the invite,
This
but
guy, bro.
I'm still happy to be here. Regardless, I'm happy I got my chance to talk to you guys on here, and I really love what you guys are doing. Honestly, like I think this year content for like Smite players, like even before the news came that we don't have SBL this year, like went up a lot. And this is obviously like one of the other like big parts of that. We are seriously lacking podcast content in the Smite community from the pros especially. So super excited that you guys are doing this, that you're still doing that, and I'm super appreciative of that. I'm sure everybody else is. So thanks for doing that, obviously, and um, genuinely happy to be here. Happy to like talk to you guys, even if it's for a short bit, and obviously appreciate it.
Dude, there's one more thing we gotta thank you for. Thank you for the teammate tier list trend. I got a feeling we're gonna keep seeing more of those, or like more ideas like that.
Yeah, we'll see.
Is really
Someone's
cool.
is gonna cause drama. That's no one so far, but I think someone's gonna be a little less eloquent with it, and I think it might cause some drama.
As long as
You
Scream
can look
doesn't
forward to
Your
pop
that.
the
fault.
stream, as long as Scream
Everything's
doesn't
on
throw
you.
it up, we're good.
No, dude, I feel like like if they gotta, they gotta just be smart about it. But I just know someone out there is like, "Ooh, I hated this guy. I can't wait to talk about him." But I never felt that way about any of my teammates, but maybe
Yeah.
someone does. So we'll see.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching, hanging out. We'll see you. I believe we're probably gonna try to keep this time. I don't know how much I'm allowed to
Yeah.
say, but for Billy, who helps us from production, shout out to Billy as always.
Love that guy.
His schedule is shifting around a little bit with what he's doing at the studio, so we'll probably keep it on either Wednesday or Thursday around this time in like mid to late afternoon Eastern time. But we'll keep you guys updated. Try to give you as big a heads up as we can. But yeah, see you next time. Thanks for listening.
Yep. Bye bye.
Bye.